Diabetics don't beat themselves up for needing insulin. Cancer patients don't beat themselves up for needing treatment. So why do I beat myself up for lacking a chemical in my own body that I need to make myself feel okay? There's nothing wrong with that.
Ever feel like you suck at this job? Motherhood, I mean. Have too much anxiety and not enough patience? Too much yelling, not enough play? There's no manual, no village, and no guarantees. The stakes are high. We want so badly to get it right. But this is survival mode. We're just trying to make it to bedtime. So if you're full of mom guilt, your temper scares you, you feel like you're screwing everything up, and you're afraid to admit any of those things out loud, this podcast is for you. This is Failing Motherhood. I'm Danielle Bettman, and each week we'll chat with a mom ready to be real, sharing her insecurities, her fears, her failures, and her wins. We do not have it all figured out. That's not the goal. The goal is to remind you, you are the mom your kids need. They need what you have, you are good enough, and you're not alone. I hope you pop in earbuds, somehow sneak away, and get ready to hear some hope from the trenches. You belong here, friend. We're so glad you're here. Hey, it's Danielle. I know you are multitasking right now. It is December. It is a crazy season. You're either wrapping presents or online shopping or driving somebody to a recital somewhere. Bless you. Things are crazy. And we're still in a pandemic, and I don't know about you, but I just have a million times a day that I think, oh yeah, I also have to, whatever it is. So if that's you, solidarity, we will make it through this season. I know you can do that. Little update. Last Black Friday weekend, hopefully you recovered from Thanksgiving. We had 6 moms say yes to their family and join Wholeheartedly Calm. That will be starting January 3rd in 2022. And again, that's 11 weeks where you are working on your patience and positive discipline strategies for strong-willed kids. So we will be starting January 3rd. It will be open still until about December 29th, and that's when I need to send out the last spiral bound workbook and make sure that comes in the mail before we start. So definitely say hi to me on Instagram. Send me a DM if you are considering it. I can send you a link to a video where some of the moms that went through the last round were able to share more of their thoughts of why they were hesitating and why they're so glad they did it. And hopefully that can help you make the best decision. Because if you are new to the podcast, you may not know, I am a positive parenting coach that works specifically with families that have strong-willed kids aged 2 to 7, and I help them prevent tantrums, eliminate power struggles, and extend their patience and get on the same page. I work with families one-on-one through a 4-month coaching program called Sanity and Solutions, and I also have this 11-week group program just for moms called Wholeheartedly Calm. And both of those options are perfect for you if you genuinely want to improve your parenting. You know that your kids deserve a parent with more composure, and you want to write a family business plan, and you just want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to be as intentional as possible in these really influential years. And you want to do that with the least amount of punishment and, consequential tools as possible. You want to threaten less, you want to bribe less, you want to yell less, and you want to do that alongside your partner so that they are supporting you and backing you up as well. So I wanted to share a few thoughts of one of my families that graduated, and then we will get into this episode. So this family was struggling with a really strong-willed 5-year-old on a regular basis, constantly at odds with each other. The stress of our lives as parents was weighing heavy on her and her sisters, where we were seeing major signs of anxiety in all of us. And what they experienced was Danielle is just the absolute best at meeting you where you are, praising the things you are already great at, even if it seems like there are none, hoping you see that it's doable, guiding you every step of the way. She has this incredibly gentle approach to tough love in that she helps you clearly see what needs to be done without making you feel like you're failing in where you currently are. I now feel so much more connected to my 5-year-old. We still have rough moments, but the love we have for each other is stronger than ever, and it pulls us through these tough times. I can confidently say I know she feels loved and appreciated and knows that she is an irreplaceable part of our family. Would you recommend parent coaching? Why or why not is what I asked her. She said 100%. Danielle's praise and confidence boosting powers alone are worth it. Haha. But in all seriousness, she's so knowledgeable, is an amazing resource for families who are not quite where they want to be yet. And I also want to add, my husband has been a bit more reluctant to the whole process, but Danielle's done a great job of helping him see the importance of all of this, as well as backing me up with great knowledge, which has helped him come around. So thanks, Erin, for sharing that with me so that other families can see that they're not alone. And if you are struggling with the same things, she said her major hesitation to starting coaching was having to face how bad things actually were. That is not easy. If you just want to know what it would be like to talk to somebody about what's going on in your house and see if there's hope around the corner for you, schedule your free Sanity and Solutions call at the link in the description below. And side note, if you don't feel like your partner would be involved, if you're not at that financial investment commitment level, but you know that you don't want to stay where you're at in the new year, you can ask for Wholeheartedly Calm for Christmas. That will be an option. It is right there waiting for you. Send that link to your in-laws or to whoever would be contributing Christmas money for you. Okay, so business aside, you want to get into this episode. I'm so grateful that Chelsie was reached out, shared her story with me, was willing to come on the podcast and just be so transparent and vulnerable about where she's been and where she is now. And just being able to put words to her experience, I think will be really powerful for maybe even you to hear. And if it speaks to you, if she was able to name something that you haven't been able to verbalize before, I would love to hear that. Chelsie would love to know that she encouraged you. So definitely connect with me after this episode on Instagram. I'm at parent_wholeheartedly if we're not following each other yet. But she really talks about her experience as a single mom, coming out of a situation of abuse. She doesn't go into the abuse. She just names that was her situation. So there's your heads up. But she talks about how she sees being a mom different from being a parent, and she'll go into a little bit of that description, and how she wrestled with the decision of choosing to take medication for her mental health, and basically just shares her experience with what she has seen from the other side and what she wished she had known beforehand. So if you have had to make that decision, if you are dreading that decision or, trying to stay away from it, I hope that her experience is a valuable one to hear. So here's my conversation with Chelsie. Welcome to Failing Motherhood. My name is Danielle Bettman, and on today's episode, I'm joined by Chelsie VanderZanden. Welcome, Chelsie. Thanks for coming today.
Hi, Danielle. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Of course. We connected because you reached out initially that you were loving the podcast. And then we connected over Zoom because I just wanted to hear more of your story. And then I asked you if you'd be willing to be on the podcast because your story just needs to be heard. You're one of those moms that's like fighting tooth and nail for her kids and for herself and for her own well-being. And we just need to know we're not alone with these stories.
I absolutely love that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I started listening to your podcast simply because of the title of your podcast, Failing Motherhood. I of course just felt like I was failing, as lots of us do. I am a single mother, and as a single mother without that counterbalance of having someone else there, it's really hard to know where you're going wrong and where you're not. And I use wrong very loosely, of course, because we never know. They're not born with a rule book. They're not born with this is right, this is wrong, you're doing this perfectly, or you're not. But I just wanted to know where other people felt like they were struggling. And so many of the episodes were like, yes, oh my gosh, yes, exactly. I could just tick off names of episodes of just connections. The anxiety episode, for one, was just a huge one. I can relate so much with that episode. I struggle hugely with anxiety of just so many different areas in my life.
Yeah. So clearly you check the boxes, you qualify. So tell us more about who you are and your family.
My name is Chelsie, like you said. I have 3 little ones. I have an 11-year-old, I have a 7 and 8-year-old. We got to bond a little bit over the distance between our youngest. My little girls are my trial children. I have some real they are the ones that make me feel like I am failing motherhood. My biggest failures came from the trials with their father, honestly. I am a survivor. We are survivors of domestic violence. We are survivors of abuse. Long story short, their father was a very bad man. He did not treat us very well. A couple of years ago, we found out that he was abusing one of my girls and has since then become punished. He's gone to prison for the abuse that he inflicted on our family. And that has just caused a lot of anxiety for us. With that has come into the progression of medications and therapy and knowing what it meant to be a mom and not just a parent. Having to weigh those counterbalances between you can be a parent, and a parent covers so many other things than just being a mom. I've said that so many times. I tell my girls that a lot, that I'm your parent, but I'm also your mom. And being your mom means a lot of things that don't cover being a parent. A parent has broader spectrum. It's making sure you're clothed, making sure you're fed, making sure you have your house, making sure that I take you to school, making sure that you do all the things that your parents have to do. But when it comes down to me having to be your mom, it's making sure that you know that the little things matter, that the way that you talk to yourself, making sure that you know that the words that you select for yourself, making sure that the relationships in your life matter, that the friends in your life matter, that the relationship that you have with yourself, with your siblings, with your grandparents, all of the different aspects of your life have to come from a mom. There's different roles. A dad has a role, a mom has a role, and I really hate to like break that down into like gender roles. I don't mean it as gender roles. I mean it as me as their mother. I have to teach them how to be their own individual person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a lot of pressure.
That's been my biggest struggle. It is. When they come home and they tell me, well, I don't understand why other families have a dad. I don't understand why other parents or other families have two parents. Why don't we have two parents? Right there, that is a line of failing parenthood, failing motherhood. Why couldn't I give that to my children? That in itself is failing parenthood for me and myself. It may not be for other people. Other people can rationalize however it works for them. That was my biggest struggle coming through this last 2 years, is how could I not give that to my children? I didn't choose the things that he did. I didn't choose the things that happened. But knowing that I chose that man, I chose that relationship, and I chose to proceed with that relationship, knowing that he was abusive, knowing that he was narcissistic, and I still chose not to leave being abused. And I proceeded with my children in that relationship. That was the biggest failure for me to overcome. And it is a lifelong consequence that I am now having to deal with. And they are having to deal with. I struggle with that on the daily. They struggle with that on the daily.
Understandably. Ugh.
Sometimes I'm not sure where to go with that with them or have that discussion with them.
Because I'm sure that you struggle with all of the regular mom guilt, but then having another layer of would've, could've, should've's, or what ifs, or, could I have done something differently? I'm sure that eats you alive some days, or used to.
Yes. Every day. But knowing that I made the ultimate good choice in leaving, knowing that I made the ultimate good choice and making sure that they don't have to see that anymore. I would much rather have the woulda, shoulda, coulda's now than the regret of staying, the regret of watching it proceed, the regret of knowing that their childhoods are not safe anymore or are continuously not safe by staying. Knowing that I would much rather be a single parent and struggle a little bit rather than not be a single parent, him continuously be here and be detrimental to my children and not watch them be strong, independent individuals because I chose to be a parent and not be a strong individual mother.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is so powerful for you to realize and stand in that power and that confidence of knowing how much good you have done and how powerful that is for your kids to see that example and how much resilience you're able to find on the other side. But I'm sure that didn't happen in a day.
No, and it didn't. It's taken 6 years. I've been gone for 6 years. And a lot of it honestly came from finally realizing that I had to live. So I love this saying. I see it everywhere now that I finally found it, is everybody says that they're willing to die for their children, but are you willing to live for them? And it came in a moment where I wanted to die. I was ready and willing to die. I didn't want to live anymore. I was on the verge of dying. I was depressed and anxious and reclusive. I hadn't left my house in weeks. I was scared to go anywhere. And I had a friend that came up to me and told me that, either you're going to die and you're going to kill your kids, or you are going to live and you're going to save them. Which is it? And it hit me, and I had to decide if I was going to save them and myself, or if I was going to run away and hide, and which is exactly what he did, which is exactly what their father did, and I was not going to let it happen. And I got on medication, and that was the one thing I did not want to do. Medication had never worked for me. It had always had really terrible adverse effects, and I had become strong-headed, bullheaded against it. But what were my other options? My other options were living in misery, living in shame, and living in anxiety, never leaving my house, and not giving my children a childhood. So I changed it. I finally went and got help. And if anybody in this whole world can protest against or for medication, it is absolutely me. And I understand that lots of people struggle. I understand that medication is not a go-to for lots of people. But if I didn't try, I wasn't trying hard enough for them. And it worked for me. It finally worked. And I can honestly say I'm the happiest I've been in years and years. I have a thriving life. I am living and not surviving. And that is my favorite line. I say it all the time. I am finally living and not just surviving. And I didn't know it until the clouds quite literally split, parted, and I saw the sun for the first time in 6 years. It was like I didn't know the sky was blue. I had no clue. And I wanted to leave the house. I wanted to take my children out and live a life. And I had no idea that people felt this way.
Yeah. That I love the way that you described that, where you just genuinely thought that every single person, like, this was their normal. What your normal was everyone's normal. And you did not realize what was possible or what was out there or how badly you really felt until you did find the medication that worked for you, and it like completely changed everything. So what do you wish you would have known prior to seeking that help?
That surviving is not normal. Surviving and thinking that living in crippling anxiety and hating being a mother is not normal. Hating being a parent, hating the fact that there are no outlets, that there are no other choices is normal. I thought that was normal. I thought all parents just felt hopeless. I thought it was normal to hate being a mom to small children. I thought everybody felt that way. I thought that all single parents, I didn't know what it was like to have a normal, typical relationship. And I mean, I will be the first to admit that I've never been in a healthy relationship before. Dustin, my ex-husband, was the only person that I have ever been in a relationship with. So being in a narcissistic, abusive, horrible relationship was all I'd ever experienced. I have no idea what it's like to be in a healthy, communicative relationship. Being a single mother to 3 small children and having children that are neurodivergent at that, I thought it was normal to hate going out in public. I thought it was normal to never go out to eat. I thought it was normal to not do functioning human being things. I thought that was typical. I thought nobody did those things. Because what do you do when you have 3 children that don't listen, that cause anxiety, that make you want to drive off the road? What do you do with them? Nothing. You stay in your house. You cry. You take hour-long showers because it's the only thing you can do to not yell at them all day long. It's the only thing you can do to not overeat. It's the only thing you can do to not lock yourself in your bedroom. It's the only thing you can do to not use or drink or, I mean, whatever your go-to drug is. I mean, so many times people just suppress. And I did. Mine was food. I will be the first to admit that I have to have something to suppress my need of anxiety. And I did for so long until I realized that all I was doing was trying to escape. I was surviving and not living. And I can honestly say 100% that I get to live. Finally, 28 years later, age of 28, I got with Dustin when I was 18. 10 years I survived. And I'm 28 and I'm living a life. We go out to dinner or to breakfast one time a week. It may only be one time, but they get to enjoy a restaurant once a week. We go to the park every day after school, no matter what the weather is. Because you know what? They get to enjoy a life that's not within these four walls. Unlike they did for 10 years. I want to show them a different life than I was showing them because of my own struggles. My own survival crippled them. And I will no longer do that. Because I don't want to fail them. I don't want to fail myself. I want them to survive, or I want them to live and not just survive.
Oh, so many powerful things that you just said. And I really hope that listeners are able to hear themselves in your story and know that there's hope out there and there's things that you can do to feel better. And you don't have to rely on other people, like your kids getting better so that you can feel better. You can take the reins and make choices that empower your own life. So, and then that ripples down. And I'm sure that you've seen a change in your kids as you have.
Oh man, it was the greatest thing ever. My youngest child, Kayana, came up to me. We were having a discussion about, I couldn't even tell you. We were having a discussion about something the other day. And she goes, it's been a really long time since you yelled at us. I said, well, I think it has. And she goes, I asked her why she thought that was. And she goes, well, now we just talk about things. I don't think you have a reason to yell at us. I said, we do talk about a lot of things now, don't you? And she goes, yeah. Well, we just kind of talk about it, and then we talk about why and how we can change things, and then we just go about our day. I said, yep. And I think I went in to explain to them that it has nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with me. It has to do with me as a mother, me as a parent. Nothing to do with them as children. They are children. They are not supposed to know things that we don't teach them. I am a full-grown adult. I know how to act. I know how to treat my children. But when I was so distraught and so worked up over my own chaos, over my own thoughts, over my own anxiety, I didn't know how to react when I have 3 screaming children, and in my own head, I'm going, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to deal with this. And my anxiety is making me shake, and my survival instincts are to run away and just survive. I just want them to be quiet. I just want them to go away. I just want them to stop. So of course, I'm going to get over the noise. I'm just going to yell, make them be quiet, and make them stop. And now I can listen. I can internalize, oh, well, she's crying, she's yelling, they're fighting, they're whatever it may be. I would much rather have a discussion, get down to the point of what's going on, and talk about it. If I can't discuss it, then it's just going to keep happening. If I just shut it down, make it go away, it's going to boil back up. If I just lift the pot off of the hot stove, yeah, it's going to fizzle down, but I put it back on that hot stove and it's going to boil back up. If I turn down the stove, it's not going to keep boiling back up. I mean, if you fix the source, the bubbles go away. If you remove it and just keep putting it back on, it's going to keep coming back up. I would much rather just take away the source. And I was the source. I was the source. It wasn't anything else. I am the source of my kids' own anxiety. I am the source of my children's own issues. Because I just keep adding to the fire. I just wanted the fire to go away. And, you know, I used to beat myself up because I thought I shouldn't have to have medication to make my children act right. I shouldn't have to have medication to make myself act right. I shouldn't have to put something in my body to make myself be okay. And then I got to thinking, maybe it was something on Facebook, maybe it was something on social media. I got to thinking one day, diabetics don't beat themselves up for needing insulin. Cancer patients don't beat themselves up for needing treatment. So why do I beat myself up for lacking a chemical in my own body that I need to make myself feel okay? There's nothing wrong with that. I need help. And it may be therapy. It may be a medication. It may just be someone that I love to be able to talk to. But unfortunately, or fortunately in my life, I don't have a support group. I have my mother, who is fantastic, phenomenal. And I have one close friend, and it was that friend that told me, you know, you're gonna die if you don't get some help. But other than that, I'm a one-woman show. It's me and my children. So I had to rely on my life to continue to help my children living. And so medication. I didn't want to, but you know, I won't go back. That medication is going to help me live my life and help my children live their life. And I was the source of my children's boiling.
Oh, I love that analogy. I've heard a similar one that's basically like you have to catch the arsonist. If like the arsonist keeps starting fires and you keep putting out the fires, they're just going to keep starting fires unless you catch the arsonist. And like that is basically the deeper rooted issue of why these behaviors are there and what need they are functioning for and why they're working. And, you know, what's the cause underneath it all? What is it trying to say? And for you to be able to now have the capacity to problem solve and be able to have that added perspective of more of like the, you know, gentle parenting, positive parenting mentality to see that they are doing what they know or struggling in some way and having a hard time and be able to empathize and then solve the actual problem that's going on and being able to actually take responsibility for a lot of that is hard. That's really hard work. And it's mentally draining on top of working, you know, all of the time and doing all of the things that it takes to run a household. Single parenting is no joke. So for you to be able to now feel like you can have a workload that is manageable and made possible by more chemicals functioning in your brain and getting therapy and finding other resources like this podcast that make you feel not alone. Now look at what you have made possible for your kids.
And just knowing that we have a future to live, and not knowing that my future is unsure. Not, I always lived this life of, I don't know that I'm going to be alive in 2 years. I don't know where my children are going to be at in 2 years. I always lived this uncertainty of who's going to take care of my children if I go off the deep end. That was terrifying, because their father's not an option. He's gone. He's never coming back. His family is not an option. They're never coming back. And I lived with that crippling anxiety of not knowing. I am so excited for my future these days. And that in itself is exciting. I used to never make plans. If I made plans, it was maybe like a couple days out, because a couple days was like foreseeable. I mean, like plans out to like maybe next summer, because I know that the future for me and my children is a life to be lived. I'm not surviving for this moment anymore. That is the biggest blessing that I have ever had. And sometimes I don't know what to do with it. It is such like a heartfelt blessing. And sometimes it seems overjoyous. I love it. I could not be more happy.
And you were mentioning how you're getting to decorate for the first time.
Yes, my home. Oh my goodness, my home is so beautiful. Oh man, that is like one of the biggest things. I forgot. You just reminded me. Yeah, we got to decorate for the first time. Last Christmas was the first time that we decorated for Christmas. We got to decorate for Halloween this year. It's little things like that are just like monumental in this house. My kids are like, oh my gosh, we get to decorate, like we get to carve pumpkins. What? You're gonna let us carve pumpkins? Because it was such a daunting task. Three kids for me to carve pumpkins with. And my oldest kid, my son, is on the autism spectrum. And so like that in itself is like a whole thing, because he takes finagling to do tasks like that in itself. So it seems so daunting. And now I'm so excited. We have pumpkins out on my step right now. And I've been thinking about designs, and Sienna wants to be able to paint. And I mean, it is exciting. I look forward to these things. We got to go to the pumpkin patch. Never in my life have I looked forward to living a life with my children. And I do have some guilt. For these things. Like, why couldn't I have looked forward to the last 8 years with them? Why just now? And I do have some worry that I am going to have to pay for the last 8 years in therapy and mom guilt and all of these things. But I'm trying not to future trip. I'm trying not to worry that it's going to cause repercussions quite yet, just because I want them to know. I do want them to understand, and I want them to know that I was surviving and I was doing the very best that I could with the resources I had. And I didn't know. That I was struggling. I didn't know I was surviving until I started to live. And then it was a life to be had. So, and as they get older, that's not their problem right now. I just want them to be happy. But that'll be a discussion that we have. And they know that the current life that we have is way different than what we used to have. So there will obviously be some discussions and why that changed. And they undoubtedly know that since Dustin left, things have been 20 times better. So there has to be some correlation with that. But that will be a discussion when they're obviously much more cognitively aware. They're 7, 8, and 11. They don't need to worry about adult discussion, but I do have some mom guilt for that. I do have some failing parenthood type guilt surrounding why I couldn't have been a better mom and focused more on my children than on myself for the last 10 years.
And and that's not something that you just, heal in a day. That is a lifelong journey for you to continue to grow and find that self-compassion and be able to reprioritize and give perspective and, offer honesty and vulnerability in front of your kids, and be forthright with apologize when necessary and, continue to work through owning your side of that relationship with the tools that you now have and the capacity you now have to, take things one step at a time, one day at a time. And again, perfection is never the, end goal. We don't just arrive. We just continue to offer our kids a real person that is their person that, ultimately is trying to live by example that they can learn from and trust, knowing that they have their back. And that is what you have proved to your kids on an extremely tangible level that they'll never forget. And like nobody comes through life unscathed. There's always going to be hard things. There's always going to be things that we did not plan for our lives or did not choose. And it comes down to how we handle them. And, it may take more time for some than others to come to other conclusions or, find new solutions. But ultimately, you just know that in like yesterday, you was doing the best I could with the tools I had and the information I had and the capacity I had at that time. And now that I have more and I know more, I can do better. And if you can offer that self-compassion to yourself, you can offer it to your kids as well and be able to both learn alongside each other as you grow. And I think that because you're doing that day in and day out and you're living that out loud for them at an age appropriate level, then you are absolutely the mom that your kids need. And so I have to wrap up, even though I could probably ask you 100 more questions about your story, and I may have to bring you back just to be able to share more about parenting in such a tumultuous relationship and where all of that, how that affects everybody. But how are you the mom that your kids need?
I think that I am simply here. I am simply just a voice. I am an ear. I am a person. I am vulnerable. I am anything that they need me to be. My children are as polar opposite as 3 children can be. Like, you think that polar opposites can only be like north and south, but if there were 3 different, like north, south, and I get like they're as different gets. And I feel like I can be each different as they need me to be. My son is neurodivergent, and I can relate with him on that level as perfectly as it gets with him. We connect on a great level, and I feel like I can get down on his ground and communicate with him. My middle daughter is struggling with abuse and coming back onto terms of not understanding why her father did what he did and not understanding where she's going to fit into this world. And I think that my relationship with her father can really relate to her on that. And my youngest and I are twins. She is my best friend. She is my bond. I think that I had enough time with each of my children that we are just a perfect match for each of us. And I give my children the time that they need, and I am never in a rush to make anything happen with them. right now I'm in the middle of a very complex war with my youngest, and she and I are not seeing eye to eye, and that is okay, because I know that we'll wrap back around and we'll be best friends again, and I'm not going to rush it, because at some point my mom and I were like that too, and we're best friends, and I just want them to know that no matter at what point we are in, that we can be whatever we need to be. I will never not love them for anything that they are going to be, and I'm incredibly open-minded. I just want them to know that that at no point in their life do they have to survive. I want them to live their lives, and I never want them to just have to survive.
Oh, yeah. If there's something that a mom wants for her kids, it's that. 100%. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love your heart. Your kids are lucky to have you. And I'm just so glad that you're willing to share such a vulnerable look at your motherhood on this public of a platform, so that you know that you're reaching the moms that might need to hear your message, and know that they're not alone, and that there is hope, and that they are the parent that their kids need. So thank you so much for spending this time with us. And I'll send you back to do all your single mama things. All right, what'd you think? I hope that was valuable. I hope that you appreciate her honesty, and I'm just so glad you're here. So if we haven't met, please introduce yourself. Join my email list. Find one of the links of one of the free resources that will be of value to you, and come say hi on Instagram. Definitely leave a review if you've been listening to the podcast for a while and feel like other moms should know about it. You are the mom that your kids need. If you don't feel like it, you might just need more tools. Check out Wholeheartedly Calm for January, or talk to your partner about scheduling a call to chat about one-on-one coaching. Your sanity and your solutions are right around the corner. Let's find them together. Your kids are lucky to have you seeking out resources like this one. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. I believe in you, and I'm cheering you on.